Well, welcome everyone, and we are here at the Hungaroring for round 5 of the Nemesis Online Racing League Championship. Sorry that I was a little bit slow in getting going live. I didn't get a message that the race was that qualifying was underway, but it looks like, as we now come through the final corner, that it's going to be Danny Bin Lahar as he runs wide actually. That could compromise him, but it looks like it is indeed going to be Danny Bin Lahar who takes pole position here at the Hungaroring for round number 5 of the Nemesis Online Racing League Championship. I'm disappointed that we missed out on the majority of that lap, but here in the clear conditions in Hungary, he has taken pole. And after a disappointing couple of races for Danny Bin Lahar, especially last out at Canada, he'll be looking to bounce back. But he's taken pole position by nearly 3/10 of a second over Anel Tanovic. Third is Testmeister, fourth is Ricardo, fifth is Deathstead, sixth is Galactic Skull, seventh is Seppi, eighth is Nemesis, ninth is Kevin Jacobs, 10th is Tata Rayner, 11th is Doug Yafferman, 12th is Lord Jord, and 13th is Murcielago. And it is very important to point out that Callum J. Spencer is not in attendance this week. I believe he is on holiday. So he is not participating this race, but we are now just waiting for the drivers to load into the grid, onto the grid, I should be saying, as I'm trying to find where am I? Trying to just get the chat up now, make sure I don't have the volume on. As we have Kevin and King Macca in the chat. Good to see you guys. Of course, Kevin will be racing, and we are now waiting for the 5 lights to go out. And lights out, and away we go for the Red Bull Fest Grand Prix. And it looks like Danny Bin Lahar has got the best start. It's going to be so hard to tell who is who. One Red Bull sent it very deep on one Red Bull. There are many Red Bulls everywhere. I can't commentate on this whatsoever, but I think it is Ricardo F1 who has moved up past Deathstes as Deathstes tries to go around the outside and goes onto the gravel there, and that's going to compromise his run through there, and that's going to put Galactic Skull all over the back of him down into turn 4. I think they're going side by side, but you don't have a great camera angle. But Kevin Jacobs, who is also right there behind, as we see, was one of the Red Bulls of Galactic Skull, has had a major moment through the chicane and cut the corner, now is running wide absolutely everywhere. But Nemesis in the Renault has moved himself up past Kevin Jacobs and into 7th place, and Kevin on his wheel looks like he is struggling here as he's now under pressure from Tata for that 8th place. But after the first lap, it is going to be Danny Bin Lahar who leads us across the line, but Anel Tanovic right there, only half a second behind, and good to see him in the battle and gaining quite a lot on the straight there. I thought that we might have seen a move for the lead potentially, but we have a yellow flag in sector 3. Not entirely sure what's happened there, but Lord Jordan, Murcielago, and also I think Doug Yafferman in the 1998 Williams side. Wouldn't expect them to be particularly quick in this Grand Prix. But there's certainly some good battling going on with Kevin Jacobs and Tata Rayner. Or Rainier, I don't know, I'll just say Tata. As we have Lord Jord and Murcielago squabbling. Well, indeed, that Murcielago has spun around Of course, it's not the first driver that we've seen spinning around today, a la Sebastian Vettel, who is a great bottler, almost as good as Tottenham Hotspur. But here, more importantly, for the time being, we have Ricardo F1 in the slipstream down the main straight of Testameister. He's gaining on Testameister. He's within dive bomb territory, but the man who is going to inherit the championship lead after tonight, unless there is an absolute disaster that happens, doesn't want to be risking anything in the early stages of this race. Has indeed plenty of time to get himself past Testameister and then potentially up to the back of Van Altanovic and Danny Ibn Lahar. Ricardo very quick out of the exit chicane, but Testo able to gain, as we've got some more yellow flags in Sector 2, so that should be behind, and it looks like it's been Tata Reina who's had a oh my days, as he's nearly come careening back across the track right into the path of Lord Jord, but he's got a 5-second time penalty for a severe collision with Dougie Aframan, so we'll have to get some on board to see exactly what's happened there. Now he's got a 3-second time penalty, and he doesn't quite realise that damage isn't on in this league, so just going careening into the wall like that won't retire you out of the race, mate. And there you go, he's left the session and is quite disappointed in that. I don't know if he'll join back for the second race, but hopefully he does. Good to see him on the grid for the first time in quite some time. I think for the second time ever in the Nemesis Online Racing League. I think the other time was Monza, I think. It's Anel going very wide over that curb and the exit of the what corner is that? The long right-hander. But Anel is certainly keeping the pressure up on Danny Ibn Lahar. The gap has been about half a second all race long. Oh, as we have Ricardo there, who just seen the gap go to about 0.2 of a second, and I'm like, ooh, we could have had a cheeky little move there. Below the Brit. Oh, what a lovely camera angle, but we'll go on board with Ricardo F1 as he is in the slipstream and could be close enough to make a move down here into turn 1 on Testameister. Is he going to try and make the move in the Red Bull? On the Red Bull, no, not quite, but he'll try to get better traction out of the corner, and he does not, losing the rear end, in fact. And Ricardo, it looks like if he's going to get it done anywhere, it's going to have to be with a mega dive bomb into turn 1. Well, certainly at the time being. But we have now just done 5 laps of the Grand Prix, and well, the two closest battles on track are for the lead and for P3. Now we've got our championship leader Callum J Spencer just flexing on us in the chat. He's saying hello from Vegas. Well, hello from Melbourne here at 6:42 in the morning, and I have not had any sleep, and I am extremely tired after a very mixed day of emotions. It's Ricardo listening to my advice, deep on the brakes there into turn 1, but not quite close enough to get it done. But Anel is, who set the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap, is now getting closer and closer to Danny Ibn Lahar, and so is Ricardo, right up the gearbox of Testameister, with a little bit of track extending going on there. but certainly no way past in the middle sector. There is that little right hand at the end of the second sector going into the third, but we have some yellow flags somewhere, and it looks like for Nemesis Racing, who I think at that corner has hit the inside curb and spun around. I certainly did do that. Oh, as Nemesis has gone for another spin, I assume. So there was more yellow flags there, but now Anel is going to look to capitalise on this strong pace he's had. He's hit the back there of Danny, but with no damage on. He is going to be A-OK. Anel looking very, very quick, and there's a disconnected car of Tata there, and that's going to come into play here. Will it get out the way? It's getting in the way of Danny Bin Lahar here. That's going to compromise him through this corner, and it's going to push Anel Tanovic wide through that corner as well. I'm not entirely sure why we don't have the ghosting on of the cars, but whatever, because that has certainly happened to me in a couple of races in the normal season where I've had to dive bomb and I've lost a good like second because of it. But as I was saying, a day of mixed emotions, you know. Two of my favourite drivers in Formula 1 retire, well, Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel, as we have, not Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, as we had some yellow flags momentarily in the middle sector, as Nemesis now moves down into P10. So it might have once again been for him in that 2006 Renault, which has traction control, and he's losing the rear end everywhere. Let's just go and see exactly what's going on here with Nemesis. Closing up to Dougie Afferman, who he should be significantly quicker than. Through the final corner, pushing Dougie Afferman through it, but somehow still running wide, even though going at a snail's pace. But now Nemesis is going to try and look to go down the outside. Oh no, never mind. Gee whiz, that was some strong and very aggressive defending by Dougie Afferman. Nemesis switched to the inside and then decided to cover off the inside again, but Nemesis trying to make the move down the inside here of turn 2. He'll have the outside line for turn 3, but he's got the move done already there on Dougie Afferman. But very aggressive defending, and almost, I'd say, illegal defending by Dougie Afferman there. Nemesis looked like he was going to try and go around the outside. Did the Danny Rick, I'm going down the inside, and somehow Dougie Afferman switched over to the inside line, defended the inside, and then Nemesis had to go around the outside of Dougie, and he got the move done into turn number 3. Sorry, out the exit of turn 3 into 2. But yeah, mixed day of emotions, that's for sure. Well, certainly in F1 there was no... Oh, we got some yellow flags here, and it looks like looks like Nemesis has gone for another spin. Oh dearie me. I don't think there's really much else to say at the moment. You're in a 2006 Renault and you're behind 298 McLarens. I think that is all. Oh, and for crying out loud, he spun it again, coming out the final corner, and I think we might see him retire. Oh, as he got in the way of the leaders there, nearly got in the way of the leaders. Thankfully, he's seen them coming, as Danny Bin Lahar has extended his margin on that previous lap to Anel. Oh, and Danny's got a 5-second stop-go penalty for ignoring a yellow flag. But what a ridiculous What a ridiculous penalty system, but that penalty will be removed, so wherever we see Danny in the classification at the end of the race, he will be well, who knows where he could be. He will have that penalty removed anyway, so where he crosses, which position he crosses the line in, he will keep that position. And then we have Nemesis retiring from the Grand Prix after a horrendous race that he's had, where he's spun around and caused yellow flags countless times, and now I think I might be seeing a lot less yellow flags in the... Oh, and Testemeister's lost the car there on the exit curb in the final sector, and now Ricciardo is finally got himself past and up into P3. He'd been behind Testemeister the whole entire race and finally got the move done, but down the main straight, can Testemeister manage to do anything about it to make up for his mistake? No, not quite. He's not quite close enough, but who knows, with a good exit he could be in with a shot to make a move down into turn 2, but no, it doesn't look like it, and Ricciardo has fully cemented that third place. And a strong points finish here will be very good for his championship and the battle that he is having in it with Callum J. Spencer. But we will watch the battle for the lead between Danny Bin Lahar and Anel Tanovic. And this is the thing, I'm so used to saying the power of the Ferrari engine, but thankfully this race I'm not actually having to say it, and with these guys having both the same engine, it's going to have to be a mega move or a mistake from one of these drivers to get past. And as I say that, Anel Tanovic is in the slipstream heading down into turn 1. He is closing, but he is not going to be close enough to make a move on the brakes down into turn 1. But as you can see, Testemeister dropping back from Ricciardo F1. As Murcielago and Tata are exchanging positions, as Tata has moved himself up into P11 ahead of Murcielago after he had seemingly wanted to retire in frustration after an incident with, I believe it was Dougie Aframan, right into this corner, I believe. Yes, indeed it was. Didn't realise that damage was off in this league, and continued on, and who knows, he could well and truly find himself getting 10th or even 9th place with the pace that Red Bull has, which is certainly why we see so many of them on the grid today. Let's just do a little quick count in a minute of how many Red Bulls there are on the grid today. Right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We literally have 9 Red Bulls on the grid today. And the only driver who is using a 2000s car is that is not Red Bull is Nemesis, and he is DNF'd from the Grand Prix. But as things are starting to settle down a little bit, but Anel certainly will be still here for the remainder of this race. It's just whether or not he can get a good enough exit, or perhaps Danny make a mistake. That's the only way he's going to get himself past, as these two are so even on pace. And that's why we have not even seen the gap balloon out to above a second. has been within and around about half a second the whole entire race. But yeah, as I was saying, certainly some mixed emotions today. Daniel Ricciardo retiring, and then Charles Leclerc, who's been one of my favourite drivers, certainly since he's come through F2, comfortably and dominantly leading the race, the Bahrain Grand Prix, with who pulled off a stunning overtake around the outside of Sebastian Vettel to move up into the lead of the race. Was Anel's cut the corner there? I don't even know if he got a warning for that. But let's see how things moved around in this grid. As you can see there, everything stayed pretty much the same in the top 7, except for Ricciardo finding his way past Testa after Testa made a mistake at that corner. You're seeing them go through right now. But the main movers have been Kevin Jacobs, Doug Yafferman, Lord George and Murcielago, who all benefited from the mistakes that Nemesis has made. But yes, once again, I was just saying that Charles Leclerc should have won that race, and I was absolutely heartbroken to see him not win that race. And then I think just after Leclerc had got his engine issued and had got past for P2, Tottenham equalised in the football, and then thankfully Liverpool scored a goal in the 90th minute, and I had many heart attacks, so thankfully not too many heart attacks, and I am still here to commentate for you right now. But Anel Tanovic through the middle sector is gaining on Danny Bin Lahar, and if he can keep this gap close enough through the final sector, he could have his best chance of the race so far to get past the Italian. So now come through the final corner, Anel taking a little bit of a wider line to try and propel himself and get a better run down the main straight, and he certainly is closing on Danny, but it doesn't look like he will be close enough. No, once again, just not close enough. Not close enough through the final sector and through the final corner to get a good enough run down the straight on Danny, and that has been the story of this race, and I'm afraid that it could be. I apologise, I'm extremely tired. That could be the story of the night. Was Anel, who's really pushing here, trying to get past and giving absolutely everything he has to try and get past Danny Bin Lahar. Both drivers pushing very hard here, but this is where Anel needs to stay close to Danny if he wants to have any chance of getting past him down the main straight through the second to last corner. Once again, that gap is at about half a second, and if he's going to have any chance of getting past Danny, that gap is going to need to be at about 4 to 3/10 through the final corner. But saying that, just about the closest he's been there into turn 1, but not able to do anything quite yet, as we are now coming towards the end of this race. We have 2 laps remaining, of course this lap and then the final lap of the Grand Prix, as Tata Reina has moved himself up into P10 past Lord George. But I'm gonna just keep my eyes on this battle for the lead, as Anel is really stepping up the pressure here through the middle sector. And soon to be coming through the fast right-hander, which Anel needs to be nailing if he wants to stay as close as he can to Danny. And here we go. It looks like Anel's had a bit of a better last sector, and we'll go on board through the final corner just to see. There we go. Oh, indeed, it looks like Anel has got a much better exit, and it looks like he will be close enough here as he sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:19.3. But heading down into turn 1, this is the closest he's going to get. But he chooses not to try and go for the move. I'm very surprised by that. I thought that Anel was for sure going to try and make a move down the inside of Danny, and the door was open. That was the closest he's been. And that may just well be the closest that he is going to get to Danny Ibn Lahar, because there isn't exactly an overtaking zone left here. So puzzling by Anel Tanovic. He had to go for it there, and he chose not to. Maybe just trying to get the points in the bag from the first race and then go for it absolutely in the second race, as we had yellow flags momentarily through the final sector, but it wasn't for any of our leaders. But as now Danny heads through the final corner, and he negotiates that quite comfortably, and it's going to be Danny Ibn Lahar who takes race victory here at the Hungaroring. Ignore that 5-second time penalty. That was an unfair and undeserved penalty, and Danny will take race victory here in Hungary. Second will be Anel Tanovic, who had a very good opportunity into turn 1 on the last lap, but didn't go for the move, and he will finish P2. But it's going to be Ricardo F1. With that result, it's going to move himself up into the championship lead ahead of Callum J. Spencer, who got past Testemeister after Testemeister made a slight mistake in the final sector. It's going to be Destes, who we've barely seen the entire race. It's going to finish in P5. Galactic Skull in P6. Seppi P7. Kevin Jacobs has had a little spin there in the final sector, and once he makes his way through the final corner, which he's just about doing, he will finish in P8. And that will be it for the first race here in Budapest. And in the Red Bull show, as everyone pretty much has picked the RB6 for this race, it's going to be Danny Ibn Lahar who takes victory here in Hungary. As Kevin Jacobs in the chat looks like he's going to be happy that race on the wheel is over, saying that he broke into a sweat during that Grand Prix. But yep, it's going to be Danny Ibn Lahar who takes victory here in race 1, from Anel Tanovic in second, Ricardo F1 in third, I don't even know what I was going to say then, I'm that tired. Testemeister in fourth, Destes in fifth, Galactic Skull in sixth, Seppi in seventh, as my voice dies on me, Kevin Jacobs in 8th, Dougie in 9th, Tata in 10th, Lord Jordan 11th, Murcielago in 12th, and Nemesis are only DNFer of the retiree of the race in 13th. But as we wait for a couple of the settings to be changed in the lobby, I am just going to go grab a drink, because as you heard, my voice just absolutely died on me. So I'm going to go for a drink. Right, and I am back. I'm sorry, I just accidentally pulled out my cord as I come back into my bed. So I had to go and make sure that my mic had reconnected properly. Oh dear. But I'm just going to try and save my voice as much as I possibly can here. As I have another 18 laps to commentate, of course, in race 2 in the random weather, or the dynamic weather. And of course the one-shot qualifying session, which determines the order of the grid for the second race. Come on, can we get started, guys? Please. Because certainly after this race, I'm going to be hitting the hay and going right to sleep. As it looks like we have just some overcast or slightly cloudy conditions for the second qualifying session here, and of course it was Danny Bin Lahar who took pole in the first qualifying session ahead of Anel Tanovic, so let's see if the Italian can replicate that. And I'm sure after being stuck behind Danny Bin Lahar for the whole of the first race, Anel Tanovic will be looking to get himself ahead here at the start in qualifying, well, for the start of the race, by taking pole. So I'm sure Anna will be extremely determined. As we are watching Danny Bin Lahar heading down into turn 1, just want to be braking as late as you possibly can, taking a good amount of inside curb there. Is Danny. I'm not entirely sure why the car is ghosted on my screen, but it looks like it is for everyone. And now heading down towards the end of the first sector, looks like he's currently in third position, as Danny now coming through the long right hander. We want to avoid that inside curb, has done so brilliantly there. Now through the ever so tricky chicane, he negotiates that pretty well indeed, but at the moment he's being out. He's currently in third place behind Testameister and Anel Tanovic, but Danny really, or choosing not to come back onto the track there, very cheeky there. It was Danny, but Testameister and Anel are ahead, and it looks like Anel is actually quite a bit ahead of Testameister as he now heads through the final corner. Will Anel be able to clinch pole position here? Yes, he is. Wow, by 7/10 of a second, Anel Tanovic takes pole position at the Hungaroring, with Testameister in second, Danny Bin Lahar in third, Deathstes in fourth, Ricardo in fifth, Galactic Skull in sixth, Seppi in seventh, Nemesis in 8th, Kevin Jacobs in 9th, Dougie Afroman in 10th, Lord Jordan 11th, Sonic in 12th. And who did we have in 13th? I think I seen Lord Jordan leave the session during the qualifying session, then join back, so it might be him in 13th. No, it's Mercury Ligo in 13th. He got disqualified for parking in a dangerous location. That reminds me, as Now Gaming now asks for an F in the chat for Slow Boy over here. Well, I wouldn't exactly say you're slow, but you're not exactly up to your up to your usual pace standards here in this car and around this track. But Altanovic has absolutely blitzed the field here, and he's going to be certainly very happy with that, and very happy that he's not stuck behind anyone, at least for the start of the race, because we've seen him get held up quite tremendously by Danny in the first race. Well, I wouldn't even say held up, but just stuck behind Danny in the first race. But it looks like we have the exact same conditions, so rain could be threatening throughout the race as we had in qualifying. So now we're waiting for Kevin. Kevin, stop reading the chat and ready up, please. There we go. I'm really joking, mate. As now, 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and lights out, and away we go. And it looks like it's been a very good start there for Anel Tanovic, and somehow Dougie Aframan has ended up backwards on the start-finish straight. But Danny Benlahar trying to go around the outside there of Anel Tanovic. Looked like he tried to close the door on the inside line, but didn't quite realise that Testameister was there on the inside. And it's Ricardo F1 once again behind Testameister, as there are many leaves being thrown up there. And there we go, everyone being very aggressive on the curbs here at the Hungaroring, something which they have struggled with in real life and had to adjust the curbs many times to fix that sort of issue. As we have a brilliant camera shot through that corner of the cars, pummeling over the inside and then outside curbs through the fast chicane in the middle sector. But Anel Tanovic certainly going to be very happy. He got the pole and now has stayed ahead of Danny Ibn-Lahar and Testameister at the start of the Grand Prix, and will now look to streak ahead for the remainder of the race, as he has an 0.8 of a second margin after the opening lap here, as Murcielago trying to go down the inside of Kevin Jacobs there, but just the amount of downforce that Red Bull has, able to go clean around the outside of the final corner. But Ricardo F1 making a move down the inside of Testameister. Is he going to be able to make the move stick? No, Testameister's still there on the inside, but now Ricardo will have the inside line for turn 4, and he looks like he's going to get the move done. If Testameister were to get that move there, I think he'd have to give it back, as he went off the track and wisely got rid of his nose where it didn't belong, into a corner which you cannot overtake. So Ricardo moves himself up into P3, and it's all too familiar, the same top 6 I believe as the first race. So hopefully for some of the drivers we see some variety. But Danny is certainly closed up to Anel on that previous lap, and is not letting him escape as perhaps we thought he would. But as you can see, the big winner from the first couple of laps has been Ricardo F1, moving up 2 positions from 5th place to 3rd. And the big loser, Testameister, who got 2nd place, but now finds himself in P4. Oh, and who was that? That was Sonic, being very aggressive on the inside curbing there of turn 4, and certainly both Red Bulls through that chicane being quick. But I'm sorry, I'm going to have to use more of the onboard cameras, as the camera angles are just not showing me the action that we all deserve to be seeing. Well, Nemesis runs right up ahead. Seppi trying to look for a switchback on the Italian. But Nemesis manages to hold him off for the time being. But Seppi right in the slipstream of Nemesis. But it looks like that Renault, the 2006 Renault engine, is faster than the 2010 Renault engine. Of course, different regulations for those engines. As Seppi not able to get past Nemesis. So we have Death, and so we have our Galactic Skull here, sorry. Running in P6. Running a good, solid race so far, but I was also going to say that Death says doing a good job. 5th place. But now what has happened to someone in the middle sector? Lord George's gone for a spin. In the middle sector. As Danny Bin Lahar and Anel Tanovic are trading fastest laps. And Danny getting closer and closer to Anel Tanovic. Not quite close enough yet to try and make a move. But he's going to try and keep that pressure up. Like Anel did to him in the first race, and try to pressure him perhaps into a mistake. We've certainly seen no lack of mistakes from Anel. Of course, hilariously in race 2 of Melbourne, where he made about 3 or 4 mistakes, but was still somehow able to clinch victory. But he looks very good here tonight, does Anel Tanovic. Picked up a very good P2 behind Danny in the first race, where I did not see him make one mistake really that cost him time. So Anel looking very strong here tonight. Galactic Skull now. It's closing in ever so slightly on Death's Stead, as we have some yellow flags in Sector 2. So that must be for... that's probably for Lord George. Yes, look, he's lost more time to Murcielago, so that would be indeed for him. Oh, and we've got Galactic Skull coming out of turn 2, that is, in the wall. As Seppi, avoiding him, has gone into the wall, and Galactic Skull's got a severe collision with Seppi, and that's given him a 5-second time penalty. I was just about to say that he's closed up to Death Stairs, and then boom, there was some massive contact, as Kevin Jacobs is now down the inside of Sonic, after there must have been some contact with Sonic, because I don't remember seeing Sonic going off the track anywhere, and he's really struggling now, and we could see Seppi move past Sonic here. No, not quite, but as I was... oh, and Danny Bin Lahar! Danny Bin Lahar's also dropped down into 5th place. I'm not entirely sure when that's happened. We were so caught up in what happened with Galactic Skull and him crashing into the wall. Coming out of turn 2. Oh, and Death Stairs with a massive moment there. Coming out of turn 1 and into turn 2. Can Danny Bin Lahar capitalise on that mistake? No, he cannot. But I wonder what happened to Danny Bin Lahar. We didn't catch it on the stream. We were caught up in what happened to Galactic Skull. Oh, it looks like on Yes, indeed. Just as I was watching Galactic Skull, get his bearings back after that spin, I just seen that Danny drops down the field, so it looks, and he was quite a bit behind Anel. I think it was nearing a second actually. So somewhere in that middle sector, Danny has gone for a spin. He now finds himself in 5th place. Of course, it won't mean too much as he has already secured the 25 points in race 1, so doesn't mean too much. But will he try to make a move here on Death Stairs? No, not quite. Oh, for crying out loud, just send it down the inside, lads. Because I know right now, if I were racing, that stamp would have been licked and sent, and it would have been delivered. And yeah. Oh, and we have Testameister going off through the exit of the chicane. Just looks like he cluttered the curb a bit too much there and ended up collecting some gravel. I was just about to say, benefiting from Danny's mistake. Somewhere in the middle sectors, Jesus Lord, that was Danny in the background, going very wide through that quick right-hander and almost into the wall. Seen a lot of track extending by some drivers today. And we've seen Danny Ibn Lahar do it once more, but Ricardo finds himself in P2. And now that'll mean that as things stand, as we just are about to go past halfway race distance, that he will pick up an extra 3 points to his championship tally, as we have Danny trying to get past Deathstead here, but into that fast corner. You're not going to be able to do it. You're never going to be able to do it. But if he gets a good enough run here, he could potentially try and send it up the inside of the chicane. No, he is just a bit too far back. Oh, and Deathstead has gone for a spin there. Coming out of the chicane, he's just lit up the rears. As we can see now with the grass on his tyres, he's really struggling to control the car. But he just lit up the rears coming out of the chicane and went spinning around. And that has gifted Danny Ibn Lahar that 4th place back. And he is about 2 seconds behind Testameister, who is in P3, so we could potentially see that gap close over the coming laps. But one gap that is certainly not closing and is just continuing to go up at the moment is the gap between Anel and Ricardo F1. Anel Tanovic showing some tremendous pace here today, looking to take his 2nd race victory in this championship. But Sonic has now just got a 3-second time penalty. Oh, this Galactic Skull nearly losing the car. Coming out of the chicane just like we've seen Deathstead do on the previous lap. Sonic has a 3-second time penalty, who is behind, as he's behind Seppi. And we just seen him going very wide and making no real effort to come back on the track. And isn't it hilarious? As soon as I say that one gap that is certainly not coming down and is being extended is the gap between Ricardo F1 and Anel Tanovic, That's almost, you know, spurred Ricciardo on, and he's closed the gap by about half a second on the previous lap. It's now 6.5. I don't think that he quite has the pace to take a race victory or anything from Anel at this stage, but good to see him upping his pace. But Galactic Skull finds himself behind Nemesis, very aggressive over the curbs coming out of the chicane through the middle sector, through the tight and twisty part of this lovely Hungarian circuit, as Anel Tanovic sets the fastest lap with a 1:19.1. That is a very, very quick lap time by the Bosnian, and he'll just be looking to extend his margin to Ricciardo in case of a mistake. So we are on lap 12 of 18 here. For round 5 of the historic championship. And of course, very exciting news dropping during the week and over the last couple of days that F1 2019 will be released. I think, when was it? June 28th, the weekend of the Austrian Grand Prix. So a full 2 months earlier than what it was last year. So very good to see Codemasters bringing that game cycle forward. And earlier on in the year, you know, that we will have, you know, a new game before the season. Well, even before the summer break, because by the time we get our hands on an F1 game, it kind of just feels irrelevant. But now we have Danny Ibn Lahar really catching up to Testemeister. In the previous lap, the gap, as I mentioned last time I spoke about these two, the gap was about 2 seconds, but Danny is looking mega quick at the time. At the moment, I should be saying. But yeah, some really exciting things looking like they're coming to F1 2019. Of course, it looks like, well, I think it's pretty much confirmed that F2 cars are going to be on the game. It'll be interesting to see to what extent, you know, whether they got the full licensing for all the cars, all the drivers, and that they're going to add that to career mode. Of course, that will be confirmed in the coming weeks and months leading up to the game. But exciting times indeed, as Anel Tanovic now is just absolutely flying at the head of the field, dropping into the, I think that was into the 118s. Not quite sure, but Danny wasn't quite able to be close enough to Testemeister there into turn 1. Will he try to make a move down into turn 2? No, he's just not close enough, is the Italian, who's also looking to overtake his compatriot of Testemeister in front. Daddy laid on the brakes into that corner. And is now piling on the pressure, as I'm not entirely sure what happened there. We didn't have the greatest camera angle from that trackside cam. I'm really not sure what happened at all, but Danny Ibn Lahar finds himself in P3 ahead of Testemeister. Danny, after his mistake, and Anel Tanovic is just flying at the front, an 18.6 here in the race. He is absolutely flying, and now finds himself nearly 11 seconds ahead of Ricardo F1. He is flying here during this race. But, oh, so we've got some yellow flags in Sector 3. And the man who's been causing most of the yellow flags today, Nemesis Racing, spinning, and has now found himself in P7. So we've got some yellow flags in Sector 3 once again. Not exactly who that was for. But interestingly, Anel's fastest lap in the race would be enough to get pole by 0.3 of a second at the moment. So it just shows you how much an advantage Anel Tanovic has over the field here today. Super quick. So we've got some yellow flags in Sector 2. I'm not sure what for. So we have Lord George trying to go past Murcielago, but Murcielago seems to be lagging quite a bit. But I'm not even going to watch the onboard because that is just too disgusting. Oh, okay. Right, he was letting past Kevin Jacobs, but still that was extremely painful to watch. Just how slow the car was through the corner. And that was, I think that was Murcielago letting Kevin Jacobs through. That was the car that we've seen. Oh, kind of just careening off the track. Nemesis Racing, very aggressive on the inside curb there. In turn 4. Because we have some more yellow flags. And that might be up ahead. No. Doesn't quite look like it, so I don't know who that was for. It could have potentially been for Kevin Jacobs. It seemed like he was a little bit slower than what he should be coming into the chicane. But we will never find out. What's going on with Anel Tanovic? The gap is now about 8 seconds. Is he just saving up, saving his fuel, short shifting so that he can put it in rich on the final lap? We can't quite see, but there we go. Anel lifting off massively coming into the corners. I think Anel has burned up too much of his fuel, and on the penultimate lap is doing some massive fuel saving. Well, the best way to be saving fuel is by short shifting, and that's not what Anel Tanovic is doing, but we're gonna just watch. Yeah, lifting and coasting massively, going into the braking zones of the corners and short shifting momentarily. There is Anel just pumping the throttle on through that corner, and now the gap is only 4 seconds. So if Anel is going to run out of fuel, Ricardo is going to be right there, and Anel just trying to set the pace too much and too quickly might just have cost himself the race victory here. And there we go, the light is flashing, but usually the light coming on and the light flashing means that you usually have about a lap of fuel left. So Anel might be fine and just giving us a slight heart attack, as the gap is now about 3 seconds to Ricardo, who now coming through the penultimate corner. I don't think we'll quite have enough to get past Anel. But now as Anel comes towards the finish line and across the line to take victory here in Hungary. Oh, and Testomeister and Danny Bin Lahar were side by side. Oh, we didn't quite catch that. We were so fascinated with what was going on with Anel Tanovic, who had an 11-second lead, but it plummeted to just under 2 seconds to Ricardo F1. But he has taken victory here in race 2. It was a very dominant display by Anel Tanovic and thoroughly deserved to win that race. Second is Ricardo F1, third is Testomeister, fourth is Danny Bin Lahar, fifth is Deathstairs, sixth is Galactic Skull, who was having a good race up until he went into the wall, coming out the exit of turn 2 into 3. Seventh is Nemesis, Seppi finishes in 8th place, Sonic finishes in 9th place, Kevin Jacobs finishes in 10th, Dougie Afferman finishes in 11th, Murcielago finishes in 12th. And I believe 13th was Lord George. But what a quite exciting and odd end to the race we just had there, ladies and gentlemen, as Anel Tanovic takes victory here at the Hungaroring in race 2 of the night. But now we will skip to the final classification, as we might have a penalty removed there for Galactic Skull, but I don't think it mattered too much in the end. Anyway, no, indeed it didn't, so no need to get that penalty lifted. That has been, once again, another great night of racing here in the Nemesis Online Racing League. Round 5 of the championship here today. But now I am going to head off, as I am absolutely buggered, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I will see you all tomorrow night for the Flat Out Racing League Championship, where we will be racing at Bahrain. The next time you'll see me commentating on this league, of course, will be 1 hour earlier for me, so at 5:30 AM in the morning. It's going to be quite a stretch. For me, I'm going to be very tired, that's for sure. So at 5:30 you will hear me commentating next on this league. Can't remember what track we're racing at next, but I'm certainly looking forward to it nonetheless. But anyway, in the meantime, it's been me, Nibbler331, and I'll see you later.